In front of me on the table, I have a historic, the last Thompson Model 1921 fully transferable machine gun to ever come out of Colt's factory. Ahead of it, a fully transferable factory Heckler & Koch HK-53 machine gun. And then below that, a Mark 23, a Heckler & Koch Mark 23 pistol with a nice OHG suppressor attached to it. What an incredible selection here. These are things that you just don't find very often. You would have to search high and low to find other stuff like this. So let's jump into it here. This Thompson Model 1921 at the rear of the table. This is not just any Thompson. This is the last one to come out of the Colt factory. This gun was made on the production line in 1922, and you can see the fit and finish is just beautiful on this gun. This gun sat there until 1990. So it sat in a dark room in the back of the factory, hidden away from daylight, anything. It's the only one that we know of that had sat there for that long until leaving the factory, because basically every Model 1921 that comes to mind has a shipment record saying it left the factory at some point. But this Model 1921 is actually an extreme rarity in the sense that it was really fresh. It sat there until then. So it did not transfer from the factory until Reed Knight found it in their back room. Now, he wrote a whole letter and included the whole history of how he came across this gun, how he discovered it. Now, one thing collectors that I know really get excited about is discovery. And this is a story of discovery that really is of monumental proportions. Around 1990, Reed Knight got involved with Colt, and they owed him some money. So, long story short, he said, I'll take guns if you'll pay me in that. So, as he was walking through the Colt factory, he caught wind that there was a row of these hidden rooms that were boarded up in the back of the factory. And in these small rooms were hiding some of the most significant, untouched historical items Colt factory had ever made. And the stuff had like an inch of dust on it. There was serial number 41 prototype Colt Thompson. There was a prototype 6mm Model 1895 potato digger machine gun. And then there was a commercial BAR back there. Just an unreal selection of untouched original Colt items. And so the employee that hid that stuff back there was probably long gone by this time, and it had gotten forgotten about. So it was basically like myth or folklore between Colt employees all through the years that they had heard rumors that there was something hiding behind that wall. And C. Reed Knight Jr. was the first person to be able to go back there and put his hands on this stuff since the time it was made in the early 1900s. And so this gun, serial 11943, Colt Thompson Model 1921, was a part of his Institute of Military Technology collection, where it was housed until now. So this is the freshest, the first chance anyone will ever get to get their hands on this Thompson Model 1921 since the day it was made, essentially. It's the first time it's released to the public. So this is, to say the least, an extremely rare opportunity. And I'm pretty excited to be able to sit in the same room as this gun, just to be in the presence of it. It has some of the best early features, such as this wonderful high polished blue finish. It has all the early internals inside of there, such as the blish lock and the leather recoil pads. It has this early adjustable sight, the fluted barrel, a cut compensator on the front of the muzzle there, this beautiful wood furniture with removable buttstock. And the lower on this gun is actually a early U.S. Marine Corps contract lower receiver. So that in itself is a pretty special piece. The Marine Corps was basically the first military organization to seriously field the Thompson submachine gun. Mind you, in the early 1920s, the Thompson Model 1921 costed over $200, which at that time was a fortune. But If you look at the workmanship in this gun, there is nothing like these today. And if anybody makes a gun of this high quality in today's world, it will cost you an absolute fortune. So these things were way overbuilt, but they're just some of the most beautiful items of American manufacturing you can ever lay your eyes on. This is an awesome opportunity for somebody to be able to acquire this gun. I'm pretty excited for whoever ends up with this. So moving on to this Heckler & Koch HK53 at the center of the table. This HK53 fully transferable factory original machine gun. This is also a rare opportunity to be able to get your hands on one of these. In the past, pre-samples came up here and there occasionally. These are not common. Only very recently, a small number of HK53 machine guns were able to be reclassified as fully transferable under a new law by the ATF, where stuff imported between 1968 and 1986 that was from outside of the US but came into the US for government use was able to be turned over to a fully transferable. So this is a fully transferable HK53 at the front of the table, and a real genuine factory gun. Something that most people would just give an arm and a leg to own, but you have an opportunity to own this in May. At the front of the table, we have a Heckler & Koch Mark 23 pistol with a Knights Armament Company matching numbered OHG suppressor attached to it. Now, C. Reed Knight Jr. created a lot of neat things. That pistol package with his suppressor is something very special. That's actually one of the finest packages you could ever get your hands on in a handgun with a suppressor. Those things were developed for US SOCOM, the Offensive Handgun Weapons Systems trials, and they've been used for quite a few different roles since then. A lot of people can get their hands on the pistol itself, but to be able to acquire a pistol with a matching number suppressor like this package, this is a pretty rare opportunity to get your hands on one, and it's directly from the man himself, so right out of his inventory. This is a very neat offering. So this is a small selection of the many important historical items we have in this upcoming May premiere sale. If you would like to get your hands on something special, there is no further place to look than here at Rock Island Auction Company. Take a look at our online catalog for the May premiere sale, and you're more than welcome to show up to our preview day the day before in Bedford, Texas. I would love to see you there.